And we are live. Welcome to another episode of the James Nolan Podcast. We got a lot to go over today. It's been about 2 weeks since I was last on, and there's a lot of rumors heating up around the Mets. Alex Bregman, the rumors are heating up. Will it be a Met? Probably not a Yankee. The reports are suggesting that Bregman will not sign with the Yankees. Yankees made a lot of moves after missing out on Juan Soto. We saw Paul Goldschmidt come to the Yankees. Cody Bellinger traded to the Yankees. They traded for Devin Williams. They're making a lot of moves. They also signed Max Fried to that 8-year deal, obviously. We're going to get into all that Yankee talk pretty soon. We're going to start it off with the Mets, though, because they need a lot. Pete Alonso was offered a 3-year deal worth $90 million. Would have made him, I believe, the highest paid first baseman in MLB history, AAV-wise. But he did not accept that. So we're going to talk about that to lead the show. Sean Manaea is a Met, baby. We're going to talk about Sean Manaea joining the Mets, re-signing with them on a 3-year deal, a very team-friendly contract, in my opinion, after having a career year last year. He really turned his game around with his arm angle. The sinker usage was very up last year compared to years prior with Sean Manaea. So Sean Manaea, I'm not saying he's going to be an ace, but he was our ace last year. He proved to be one of the best pitchers in the postseason. I mean, outside of Game 6 against the LA Dodgers in the NLCS, Sean Manaea was on fire in the playoffs. So I'm very happy with that signing. And then we're also going to get into the crappy football team. That's the helmet that I got. Garrett Wilson got his signature on that helmet. And speaking of Garrett Wilson, it's looking like he is not going to be a New York Jet if Aaron Rodgers returns. Speaking of the Jets, head coaching interviews are already starting. They're meeting with Ron Rivera. Apparently, Rex Ryan is also going to get an interview. I mean, Ron Rivera is awesome. Rex Ryan's awesome. But, I think their best days are behind them. Rex, I think I would prefer over Ron Rivera, but I don't think Rex is my top choice. My top choice in this head coaching search is Brian Flores, the Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator, former head coach of the Miami Dolphins. I love the idea of bringing in Brian Flores as the head coach. And whatever they want to do with Rodgers, I think it should be up to the head coach. And speaking of this, the Jets are kind of doing it backwards. They're going after a head coach first without signing a GM. A little weird there, so we're going to get into that as well. And then the New York Giants pick up a big win over the Indianapolis Colts, their first home run of the season. I'm saying big win sarcastically because they had the first overall pick in their hands if they lost these last 2 games of the season. But now the New England Patriots swoop in. They got the number 1 overall pick, and the New York Giants drop down to 4. And then the Knicks, another great win for the Knicks. That's 8 in a row tonight. Win over the was it the Wizards? Yeah, but Knicks 8 straight. Josh Hart, triple-double. Karl Anthony Towns, another fantastic performance. He's playing like an MVP right now. But Josh Hart, man, the things that he's been doing for the Knicks this season, I mean, he's having the best year of his career, no doubt about it. A triple-double tonight, 20 points, 10-plus boards, 10-plus assists. This guy's all over. He's the engine of this Knicks team. But let's lead it off with the New York Mets and this Pete Alonso situation. 3 years, $90 million on the table. That's the offer that the Mets offered him. So what I'm asking is, did he actually turn it down, or is this offer still on the table? Because if this offer is still on the table, I think this is the highest David Stearns is going to go. If he doesn't accept this offer, I think we can kiss Pete Alonso goodbye. He will be wearing a different uniform for the first time in his major league career, and that uniform it obviously just won't be a New York Met uniform, and it will be a heartbreak. It's not like the Jacob deGrom situation where deGrom was hurt. This is a guy who has never missed more than 10 games in a single season. This is the guy that was really the only reason you watched the team in 2020, 2021, and 2022, they went off, and Pete Alonso had a great year, hit over 270, over 40 home runs, led the league in RBIs. Like, that was the year that Pete Alonso needed to have in 2024. But he bet on himself. He turned down a 7-year contract with a little bit over $150 million. Turned that down, bet on himself, just like Aaron Judge did, to try to get a big contract. And we all know it did not work out. You look at his numbers overall, it wasn't a bad year. He hit 240, he hit 34 bombs, had over 80 RBIs, but that's not a Pete Alonso year. Even in 2023, if he had a year like he did in 2023, I think Pete Alonso would undoubtedly be on this team, because in 2023, you could say his batting average was crappy. It was well under 220, but at the same time, he hit over 40 bombs. This year, he didn't hit over 40 bombs. In 2023, hit over 100 RBIs. This year, only had 88 RBIs. So Pete Alonso had the worst year of his career at the worst time of his career. So he bet on himself, didn't work out, but I think I can confidently say Pete Alonso will come back, and that's only because the first base market is dwindling down and he's running out of options. Unless the San Francisco, even if Pete, what I would do if I'm David Stearns is give him that 3-year deal and say, hey, you want to have another prove it year, you get after 1 year, you get an opt out. And if you perform well after that 1 year, then you know what? Because at the same time, like, we can say, oh, we want to play the waiting game for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. next year. He's going to be a free agent, and he's a great first baseman. Don't get me wrong. I would love to have Vladdy. But at the same time, do you want to play the waiting game? Francisco Lindor is north of 30 right now. Juan Soto is about to enter even though he's coming off a great year, over 40 home runs for the first time in his career, over 100 RBIs. He had a phenomenal year, but he's now entering his prime. You want Juan Soto and Lindor both in their prime. Mark Vientos, he's not in his prime just yet, but he's still a very good ball player. I would say one of the best young hitters in baseball, not the best hitter in baseball, but one of the best young hitters, no doubt about it. And guess what? Juan Soto's only like a year older than him too, so that's great. But Pete Alonso, you bring in a guy like that for the 2025 Mets, that lineup, if you just think about it, you can play hypotheticals all you want, but this would be my dream lineup if they do bring back Alonso. You go Lindor and Soto, and Lindor would go off with Soto hitting behind him. You're going to have to pitch to one of those two guys. I talked about it on the previous pods. I love the idea of Soto hitting behind Lindor. You go Lindor, Soto, Vientos, Alonso, Brandon Nimmo. Roll the dice with either McNeil or Luis Angel Acuna at second base. If it's McNeil, I have a good feeling he'll probably hit seventh. If it's Acuna, I could see him hitting in that. I mean, McNeil would hit sixth, because that, if you're going to have, because, you got Nimmo batting fifth. So lefty, righty, you'd probably want that. If it's Acuna, I could see the same thing as well. McNeil seventh. If you get Acuna in there, probably sixth. Francisco Alvarez, I still want to see a little bit more out of him. A lot of Mets fans love him, and trust me, I do. I think he has the potential to be one of the best hidden catchers, if not the best hidden catcher in all of baseball. But we just haven't seen it yet over a consistent period of time. Like, I get it, you can have slumps, but when he's in a slump for like 2-3 months. We need to see Francisco Alvarez really break out of his shell in year 3. Like, this is the time. He's still very young. He's got a lot of time to prove himself. But at the same time, we're trying to win a World Series. We can't just have this guy having on-base percentages below 300. We can't have this guy hitting 210, 215. He didn't even hit over 20 bombs last year. I get it. He was hurt. So I'm going to cut him a little slack there. But I do want to see more out of Francisco Alvarez. I'm going to get into that too. But you bring in a guy like Alonso to this lineup with Soto, with Lindor, with Nimmo, with potentially Francisco Alvarez proving himself. Mark Vientos, who hit 27 home runs in just 110 regular season games last year and was arguably the best postseason hitter in MLB last year. Well, this year. That's a game-changing lineup. And I've said it multiple times. I've said it on Fansided. I've said it on this pod. You need a powerhouse lineup in today's MLB. We saw it. Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Tommy Edman, and they're coming back next year. They just got Teoscar Hernandez back. And keep in mind, the Mets did also offer Teoscar Hernandez a 2-year deal. So that's something to keep in mind. Are the Mets also looking for another DH? Because I feel like Teoscar would probably end up playing left, and you shift Nimmo over to center if we did get him. But maybe Anthony Santander. Santander had a phenomenal year, switch hitting power. He's just a switch hitting slugger, man. He's a beast, coming off a great year, career high in home runs last year. I believe he had 44. So Santander is a guy to keep an eye on as well. But Alonso, I think you can afford Alonso and Santander. I think you can afford Alonso and Alex Bregman, because if you get Alonso on that 3-year deal, you still got a lot of money left over. You bring in Alex Bregman, and it would make things complicated for sure. I don't like the idea of Mark Vientos DHing right now. He's very young. I like David Wright sucked at third base his rookie year and his sophomore year, and he turned into a Gold Glove infielder. So I don't want to just say Mark Vientos is a bad infielder. He's going to suck his entire career in the infield. I don't want to have him DH next year, but you know what? If it means maybe you give Pete Alonso that 3-year deal, it's an opt-out after year one. Vientos, you're going to DH, maybe split some time at the DH spot. You give Juan Soto a few days off, give Pete Alonso a few days off, maybe even Francisco Lindor. You shift Acuna over to short. Like, I know necessarily those guys might want to play every single day, but at the same time, you want those guys rested, because if we want to make the postseason, we want those guys rested and ready to go. So that's what I want to see. I think we can afford Bregman and Alonso, but I think that is the least likely combination of offensive free agents that would come here. I would say the most likely one is Santander and either Bregman or Alonso. I think Santander has a very good shot of signing with the Mets because the Mets need a DH. And if you miss out on Santander, who's the DH you pivot to? I think Jesse Winker. I like the idea of Jesse Winker hitting against right-handers as our DH. He has very good career numbers against right-handers with runners in scoring position, over an 800 OPS. Against right-handers, he has over 300 batting average. I mean, this is a guy who kills right-handers. He was an all-star with the Nationals. So I do like the idea of bringing back Jesse Winker. But then again, if you can get Santander, what's the point of even having Jesse Winker? What's the point? But you bring in Jesse Winker, you have Starlin Marte be a platoon DH with him. I like that. And then maybe you buy at the deadline for a legitimate DH, or Winker gives you a lot. I mean, the guy loves playing for the Mets. His energy that he provides, we all know. He's a guy, I think, you hate him if you're playing against him, but you love him if you're playing with him. So I think Jesse Winker would provide a lot to this New York Mets team in 2025 if we can't find a DH like Anthony Santander. But at the same time, if we can get Pete Alonso and Santander, or Bregman and Santander, or even Bregman and Alonso, which I love it, but I just have a hard time seeing David Stern, Steve Cohen, and Carlos Mendoza saying, Mark Vientos, you're DHing. Like, that's tough to do to a young kid like him. Like I said before, David Wright sucked in the infield. He was a terrible third baseman when he first came up, turned into a Gold Glover. I'm not saying Mark Vientos is going to turn into David Wright and be a Gold Glover, but I have a hard time seeing Mark Vientos not get better at the age he is right now. He's only 25 years old. He was just 24 years old last year. So Vientos, I have confidence in him. But let's say we even don't get an offensive player, because that's also on the table as well. We also need pitching. We're going to get into that. We need a bullpen on him too. I like the idea of bringing in Jeff Hoffman for maybe a 1 or 2 year deal. Who knows? We're going to get into that later. But, let's say we don't. Let's play the hypothetical game. Let's say we don't get Pete Alonso. Let's say we don't get Alex Bregman. Let's say we don't get Santander. I think you got to maybe shift Vientos to first and give a guy like Ronnie Mauricio, give a guy like Acuna a shot at third, because Acuna can play a lot of positions. I hate when people say, oh, he's a second baseman. No, you find a spot for Acuna if he's hitting. You find a spot for him. If he's hitting like he did in his short little stint at the end of the year last year, you're going to find a spot for him, whether it's at second, whether it's at third, whether it's in the outfield and center. And he's an athlete. I think I've said this before. I think Luis Angel Acuna is the best athlete in the Mets system right now. There's no other better athlete than Acuna. He's a beast. He's fast. He's got quick hands. He's a beast in the field. He's got range. He's got an arm. He can hit. He can do it. He's got the potential to be a real legitimate 5-tool player in this league. I do love the prospect of Acuna, but at the same time, we're trying to win a World Series. We got Francisco Lindor at the north side of 30. We got Sean Manaea in his prime right now. We got Kodai Senga at the north side of 30. Like, the window to win a World Series, I think, for the Mets is 2025, 2026, maybe 2027, depending on what we do. But, I like the idea of the Mets being a perennial playoff team. I think that's legitimately on the table. But the window to win a World Series, right, is now. It's now. Francisco Lindor is in his prime. He's coming off the best year of his entire career, and that's even when he was with the Cleveland Indians at the time, now Guardians, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, I mean, I think Lindor is in his prime right now. No doubt about it. You got to win a World Series with one of the best shortstops, if not the best shortstop in the league, in his prime, with Juan Soto coming to the Mets for the first year. You got to win. That's why I'm saying you got to go get a Pete Alonso. You got to go get a Bregman or both. You got to go get maybe even Anthony Santander and Pete, maybe Anthony Santander and Bregman. One of those combinations I think the Mets have to do. And can they sign Alonso and Bregman and give us all what we want? I think they could. Just the trick is there. Do you really want to make Mark Vientos a DH at this point in his career? Do you really want to do that? Like, that's tough. But then again, you get both those guys. Imagine that lineup. Let's play the hypothetical game again. Lindor, Soto, Vientos, Alonso, Bregman, Nimmo, McNeil or Acuna at second. Like, I don't even care who hits after that. You can roll the dice with Francisco Alvarez at 8 or 9. I like the idea of him hitting ninth, so we can have Lindor hitting behind him. Whew. And then center field, obviously Tyrone Taylor and Jose Siri, great defensive outfielders. And I like the idea of building a lineup that can actually have those two play center, because you're going to need guys that have range in center with Brandon Nimmo in left, even though he's coming off an injury and he said himself, he's expecting to be one of the better left fielders again. And he is a very good defensive player, especially I think in left field too, now that he can have full-time left field play, because he was great in center field, don't get me wrong, but he's on the north side of 32. He's just coming off a plantar fasciitis injury. You know, that's not fun. It's not fun at all. It hurts. I've had it when I was a kid. It's not fun. And if I was a kid and I had it and I wasn't having fun, imagine a 31-year-old who plays left field 150 games a year. That's not fun. But that's why you need a Tyrone Taylor or a Jose Siri out there. But if you can have those guys play, if you want those guys to play center, you need a Pete. You need a Bregman. You need a Santander. And if you get Santander, you need one of Pete or Bregman. You can't just sign Santander. But then again, you can get Pete, you can get Bregman, you can give me Winker. Peter, Bregman, and Winker, I'll take that too. Because like I said before, Jesse Winker against right-handers, he kills them. With runners in scoring position, he's very good. He was very good in the postseason at over 1,000 OPS. His on-base percentage, I believe, was a little bit over 400. So I like Winker. I do like Winker. I think Mendoza made a few mistakes in the NLCS, hitting JD Martinez at the DH spot over Jesse Winker. A lot of Mets fans didn't like that. I didn't like that. I think it came back to bite them a little bit. I mean, at the end of the day, the Dodgers were so freaking good, but you need a loaded lineup. If the Dodgers are teaching us anything, if the Phillies are teaching us anything, if the Braves are teaching us anything, you need an absolutely loaded lineup, especially if you want Tyrone Taylor and Jose Siri in center, and especially if you have the rotation that the Mets do right now. And that's even if they add a Roki Sasaki or Jack Flaherty. Like, I think they could potentially get Jack Flaherty on a short-term deal. I think getting Roki will be very tough. It looks like he's going to be a Dodger. But there are I've said it before, Roki's agent loves Jeremy Hefner. Loves the work that he does with the pitchers. So that's a little pro in our book if we want Roki. But Roki's a wild card. We're not necessarily a guarantee to get Roki. So we have a rotation of Senga, Manea, Peterson, Clay Holmes, Frankie Montas, and you want a sixth starter. Who's it going to be? I like the idea of bringing Jose Quintana back as well on a one-year deal. But if you want to have that pitching rotation, you desperately need a loaded lineup. And I like the idea of just adding Jose Quintana and if we miss out on Roki, it's a win-win situation win-win situation. You know, you're not expecting the Mets to just go out. They're not a lock to get Roki. They're not. So anybody that thinks that way, you're dumb. We're not just a lock to get Roki Sasaki. He's got the international free agent pool money. He's not going to sign a deal like Kodai Senga did or like Yoshinobu Yamamoto is. And that's another thing I want to get into. I feel like David Stearns is catching a lot of shade right now. Oh, why isn't he going for pitchers like Corbin Burns or Blake Snell or Max Fried? Those guys are all, like, their best years are behind them. Let's be real. Yamamoto is 25. So if a pitcher comes up like Yamamoto, or let's say Paul Skeens in 5 years as a free agent, you're telling me David Stearns isn't going to throw a bag at him when he threw a $325 million offer at Yoshinobu Yamamoto? David Stearns would love to pay a pitcher if they're young. So I do like the idea of getting veterans on short-term deals. I like it. And then you can always buy at the deadline. Look what the Dodgers did last year with Jack Flaherty. I mean, I know they loaded up their rotation, but at the same time, Tyler Glasnow barely pitched. Clayton Kershaw barely pitched. I mean, even Yamamoto, he got hurt a little bit. I still think Yamamoto is going to be a very good pitcher in this league, but he got hurt a little bit. So they dealt with injuries. Walker Buehler, another guy. So, I mean, I would love to take a flyer on Walker Buehler on that 2-year deal. I think we missed out on that. But at the end of the day, you get Manaea, you get Senga, you get Peterson. That's a very good 1, 2, 3. I don't think you necessarily need an ace. You don't need a Jacob deGrom like we did in the past, because we had Jacob deGrom in the past. He won a Cy Young in 2018 and 2019. What did we do? Absolutely nothing. We had Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander in 2023. What did we do? Absolutely nothing. So, I think having an ace, yes, it's great, but you can get one at the deadline. But if you do have this rotation that the Mets do right now, you need to load that lineup up. You definitely need to load that lineup up. Let's hit the comments real quick. If the Mets get Roki, I mean, I don't think we need more starting pitching. That's a good question, Jonathan. If we get Roki, I mean, that would be a loaded rotation. You got your front 4 starters that you're very confident in. David Peterson coming off a great year, 10-3, sub-3 ERA. Kodai Senga, say what you want about him. He had a rough outing against the Dodgers, yes, but he looked very good against the Phillies. One bad pitch to Kyle Schwarber in the Phillies, and that's it. That's it. You gave us 2 great innings, coming off an injury too. We pitched 5 regular season innings. Like, why were we expecting Kodai Senga to be the 2023 version? And the 2023 version of Kodai Senga, when Kodai Senga is healthy, knock on wood that he stays healthy, he's a great pitcher. He was a top 5 pitcher in the National League in 2023. 2.98 ERA, 12-7 record, over 200 strikeouts, I believe 202 to be exact. Like, I'm not saying an ace, top ace, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe the Mets see something. And then also Brandon Sprout, a guy in our system. Mets didn't want to trade him all offseason. I think that says something. Kid's 25 years old right now. Brandon Sprout's 25 years old. I think we're going to see Brandon Sprout at some point at the MLB level in 2025. So let's see what we can get out of him. Brett Beatty. I know I mentioned him earlier. I don't want to see Brett Beatty at all. If we're missing out on Santander, Bregman, Pete Alonso, I think the best move would be move Vientos to first and give Mauricio, get Acuna at third base, get him some reps. And you know what? Say what you want about McNeil, but McNeil had the 3rd best OPS after July 1st on the Mets. McNeil played a vital role in turning the Mets season around. I know Francisco Lindor finished second in MVP voting, arguably should have won it, because if you take him off the Mets aren't in the playoffs last year. But story for another day. McNeil put up very good numbers. He had the best stretch of his career after July with the Mets. Best stretch of his career. And that's talking when he won a batting title in 2022, because his power numbers were up. He hit over 270. And if your power numbers are up, you got over an 800 OPS and you're hitting 270. That's very good. I'll take that night in and night out. So McNeil, a lot of people want to push him off to the side. Let's roll the dice and see what we can get out of him one more year. I like the idea. And you know what? Maybe he performs well. You trade him at the deadline. You get something back for him. Maybe you include him in a package to get an ace-level pitcher with a prospect. Like maybe if Mauricio's not playing every day, if Acuna's not playing every day, you package one of them. I like the idea of Jet Williams too staying, so I don't want to trade Jet. I don't want to trade Acuna. Maybe you see what you can get out of Mauricio, build up his trade value, build up McNeil's trade value, get that deadline ace. All right, let's talk some bullpen. Bullpen targets, I like the idea of Jeff Hoffman. I don't think we're going to get... Jeff Hoffman had a very good year last year. He's been having very good years in years prior to. 31 years old, coming off a great season with the Phillies. So he knows how to pitch in the NL East. 2.17 ERA, 68 games pitched, only 16 earned runs allowed in those 68 games. So I like that idea. And then 2023, he had a 2.41 ERA. So he's really turned it around in these last 2 years. So I think his career ERA is 4.82. That's why I'm saying Jeff Hoffman, because I don't think he's going to get a lot of money like a Tanner Scott will, like a Devin Williams will next year. Like he's not going to get top-level relief pitching money. So I like the idea of bringing in Jeff Hoffman. Ryan Stanek, he's still available. I'd like to bring him back. You can give me Stanek, Hoffman, Diaz as our 3 main bullpen guys. Sign me up. And then you still got Jose Budo. You want to use him as a 6-man in that rotation. I'm all for it. but I like the idea of keeping him in the bullpen. He had a lot of success in the bullpen. I like the idea of having Jose Butto in that bullpen, being that type of long reliever, that spot starter, kind of like what Trevor Williams was a few years ago with the Mets. So that's what I would say there. But Mets definitely need relief pitching. I definitely think they need to add one more pitcher on a short-term deal. I don't think we necessarily need Roki Sasaki. I would love him. Don't get me wrong. I think we're going to be big players for him. But if we don't get him, it's not the end of the world. And I think if we don't get him, you pivot to Jose Quintana. And Jose Quintana as your sixth starter. Because if you have a rotation of Senga, Manea, Peterson, Clay Holmes, Frankie Montas, and then Jose Quintana, and then you also got Brandon Sproat, who we're expecting to see at some point in 2025. You got Jose Butto, like I mentioned before. He can be a long reliever, spot starter when we need him to be. Jose Quintana is coming off three really good back-to-back years. He was hurt in 2022 and 2023, really 4 good back-to-back years. With Pittsburgh, 20 games in 2022. Oh, actually, he had 32 games overall in 2022. I'm just reading that wrong. I forgot he got traded. But in 2022, 2.93 ERA across 32 starts. In 2023, 13 starts only, but a 3.57 ERA. And then this year it went 10-10, appeared in 31 games, 3.75 ERA. Jose Quintana as your sixth starter, sign me up for it. We know he can pitch in New York. He had a very good postseason, just like Manea. Jose Quintana had a very good postseason. He came up big for us. In the postseason, he went 3 starts, 14.1 innings of work, only allowed 5 earned runs, gave him an ERA of 3.14 in the postseason. 13 strikeouts in those 14.1 innings. Sign me up for another Jose Quintana reunion. I like the idea. All right, but just to wrap up the Mets, I got to take a piss. We're going to take a quick break, hop into the Yankees. But to wrap it up, Mets, my ideal, if I was David Stearns, wait on Pete Alonso, go get Alex Bregman. If you get Alex Bregman, say bye-bye to Pete, go in for Santander, because I don't want Pete. If we get Bregman, I don't want Pete. I'll be honest, right there. I might take some shade for it, but who cares? Pete Alonso, you bet on yourself. You didn't bet right. We offered you a 3-year deal to make you the highest paid first baseman in MLB history with AAV-wise. Could have made $30 million a year if he accepts that contract. Go after Bregman. You cannot play the waiting game with Pete Alonso and then miss out on Alex Bregman. And you know what? If you get Alex Bregman, you can go after Santander. You don't get him big whoop. You get Jesse Winker. Platoon him with Starlin Marte. So I think Bregman should be option A. Pete Alonso should be option B. But option A should be Bregman and either Winker or Santander as your DHs. But plan B is Pete Alonso and Santander, Pete Alonso and Jesse Winker. Because like I said, you need to add to this lineup. You got a pitching rotation like the Mets do right now. You need to load up the offense, especially with the way the Dodgers lineup looks, especially with the way the Phillies and the Braves look. Even though we beat the Phillies in the NLDS, like we've seen it before. The Mets beat the Chicago Cubs in the 2015. They swept them in the NLCS. And what did the Mets do in 2016? Eliminated in the wild card game against the San Francisco Giants. And then what did the Chicago Cubs do? They went on to win the World Series. So just because you have a good series against a team the postseason prior doesn't mean you're automatically better than them. It doesn't. Like the Phillies had the better roster. Let's be real. So we just played better than them. That's what we did. And then you know what? Roll the dice with Candelita. I'll take him back too, just for the cause of it. He played a very vital role. I mean, if you're going to have Mark Vientos on this team, which you will, obviously, you want to get Mauricio going. You want to get Acuna going. I think having a veteran like Candelita would be very good. Jose Iglesias, let's bring him back, baby. All right, I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to hop into the Yankees. Paul Goldschmidt, haven't been able to talk about that, but he's signed with the New York Yankees. DJ LeMahieu might get a shot at second base. What are they going to do? Because Bregman seems off the table for them, which is, in my mind, is they're out of their mind too. Because similar to Lindor in his prime, Judge is not getting any younger. Garrett Cole is not getting any younger. Max Fried is not getting any younger. Just like the Mets have a window to win a World Series of really 2 to 3 years, Yankees have a smaller window. Garrett Cole is coming off an injury. Max Fried has some elbow issues as well. Aaron Judge ain't getting any younger. Stanton, we all know, isn't getting any younger. Time to win is now with the Yankees. So it shocks me that they're out on Bregman, but they are. They're going to give DJ LeMahieu a shot at second, it looks like. They're going to give Jasson Dominguez for sure. They're going to give him a shot in left field with the Yanks. Aaron Judge probably shifting over to right. Cody Bellinger in center. But the Yankees will get into them next. Quick break and right back into them. Where's this video? There
Last
you go.
80 games of 2023, 284 batting average, 15 home runs, 44 RBIs. If we get that Lindor for a full year, and now I'm not saying last year he didn't have a all year. Look at the numbers. Last year, 2023, Lindor was a top shortstop. He was an all MLB shortstop. 30-30. He was a beast. But in the last 80 games, the second half, that's when Lindor really turned it up. If we get that Lindor for a full season, the Mets are going to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs. And Lindor will be an MVP candidate. He has MVP potential. I've said it since the Mets have traded for him. Francisco Lindor has the talent, has the ability to win an MVP. He is that good. But he's inconsistent at times. I cannot ignore that. But over the last 80 games of 2023, he was pretty consistent. And he was probably the best, second best, right after Corey Seager. But he was arguably the best shortstop in all of baseball the last 80 games. That's what Lindor can be. And if we get that for a full year, not only will he be an MVP candidate, but the Mets will be in the postseason. He's that good. Lindor is that good. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win the MVP, but I've been saying it since we've traded for him. He has it in him. He does have it in him. Last year, undoubtedly his best year. Second half, he was the best shortstop in baseball. We get that for a full year. Mets are going to the playoffs. Let's go over to the DH, and then we'll get into the Yankees. Jorge Soler wants at least 3 years. If he wants 3 years and he's going to get 3 years, stay away from it. Last year, he was great, 30-plus home runs. Probably had the best year of his career. But he's also 31. He's had 11 years. It took him 11 years to have that type of year. I'm not saying that he's going to have that year for the next 3 years. I would stay away. So that gets me into my next guy, J.D. Martinez. I wrote a piece on it just last week. J.D. Martinez is a perfect fit with the Mets. Perfect fit. You got guys like Vientos. You got guy like Beatty. You got guys like Francisco Alvarez. You got all these young guys that you want to have make an impact for the Mets eventually in the future. Not only can J.D. Martinez help you now, but he's not going to take away at bats from those guys, one. And two, he could help those young guys. And he could be the DH for this year. He could help the Mets in 2023. That's really the simple answer. Why is he a perfect fit with the Mets? Because he would help them win in 2024. Down the road, is he going to affect the Mets? No, because it would only take a 1 or 2 year deal. The guy's 38. And guess what? All right, we're back. What should the Yankees do? Because the Yankees seems like they want to roll with DJ LeMahieu, but I don't think that's the smartest decision based off what he's done the past 2 years. He struggled in 2023, coming off a season where he was dealing, I believe he had 3 injuries altogether in 2024. Brian Cashman did say he wants to see him make an impact in 2025, but I just don't think DJ LeMahieu is going to make that impact. Yes, you can roll the dice with him and buy at the deadline, but at the same time, Aaron Judge isn't getting any younger. Stanton isn't getting any younger. Garrett Cole isn't getting any younger. You brought Max Fried, and you bring Devin Williams in, Paul Goldschmidt, Cody Bellinger. First off, Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt, best years are behind them. Say what you want. Oh, all these Yankee fans. Oh, we turned Juan Soto. We turned Juan Soto into Cody Bellinger, Devin Williams, and Paul Goldschmidt. Give me a break with that. But speaking of that, Bellinger didn't hit over 25 home runs in 2024. Goldschmidt didn't hit over 25 home runs in 2024. Why wouldn't they be in on Bregman? Why wouldn't they be in on Anthony Santander? Makes no sense to me, but then again, who am I? I'm not no baseball GM. But if I was the Yankees, what I would do is go after Bregman, but that's not on the table. It seems like they're out on Bregman. Seems like they're out on Nolan Arenado. But there are trade rumors about Brandon Lowe's on the trade market right now. And another guy who I think would make a lot of sense for the Yankees is trading for the San Diego Padres second baseman, Luis Arias. Now, coming off 3 fantastic seasons, three-time Batting champion. But here's what I like Arias. If you hit him at the leadoff spot, he's getting on base like we all know he does. Luis Arias in the leadoff spot, first off, he's a lifetime 323 career hitter. He's only 27 years old. Played 409 games in the leadoff spot. And he's supposed to a batting average with on base percentage of 364, and with runners in scoring position, 369 batting average. But you have him leading off. Probably not going to get a lot of opportunities with runners in scoring position, but sometimes he will. Sometimes he will. But you have him leading off, and you have Aaron Judge. You have Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, Giancarlo Stanton. They can drive in runs. You need a guy on base. Jazz Chisholm also. I'm going to throw him in there as well. Those guys are sluggers. Those are your sluggers. You need a guy that can get on base, especially like Luis Arias. I don't think it's going to take too much to get him. If you got Jasson Dominguez playing left field, you're going to give him that opportunity. Spencer Jones. Trade him. Why not? If you can get Arias for a guy like Spencer Jones, I mean, you can give up Spencer Jones for a guy like Luis Arias. I think it's a no-brainer for the Yankees. I still think it's on the table. I'm not sure if they're going to include Spencer Jones, but who knows? I think that deal just straight up would get it done. Spencer Jones is a very good prospect, second-rated prospect in the Yankees farm system right now. Why not? Go do it. That's what I would do. I mean, leading off in 2025, he would complement like those Yankees sluggers perfectly, in my opinion. But then again, it seems like they want to run it back with DJ LeMahieu. DJ LeMahieu, let's see his numbers. Only 67 games in 2024. Then again, from 2019 through 2023, 285 batting average, 788 OPS. He had over 10 home runs in each of those seasons. So yes, I do like the idea, but there's got to be more at the deadline then. They have to do something at the deadline to require someone to be the everyday second baseman, because you can't go into the postseason with DJ LeMahieu as your everyday second baseman. And you can't expect DJ LeMahieu at the age he is right now to stay healthy. He only played 67 games last year, coming off 3 injuries last year. That's just not fair to him or to the Yankees. It's not. Or Aaron Judge or Garrett Cole or Max Fried. They want to win a World Series, dude. So, but Brandon Lowe, his name popped up today. Let's take a look at Brandon Lowe's numbers. Brandon Lowe with Tampa Bay in 2024, 244 batting average, 21 home runs, 58 RBIs. I think he would be a good option at second base. I mean, his numbers kind of replicate Gleyber Torres a little bit, but at the same time, you need another infielder, because right now there's an infield spot open, whether you want to move Jazz to second, whether you want to keep him at third. That leaves you Paul Goldschmidt, Jazz Chisholm Jr., and Anthony Volpe as your 3 infielders. You need another infielder. DJ LeMahieu, I don't think a lot of Yankee fans want to sign up for that. And I don't think the Yankees should sign up for that. But Brandon Lowe has had some success before. Then his OPS is 783, career OPS of 812. He's been a Tampa Bay Ray his entire career. And let's take a look at his playoff numbers, because that's really what matters. Oof, terrible. 115 batting average in 3 postseason appearances, OPS of 423. So that's not too good. But Yankees need another bat in that lineup. No doubt about it. Whether it's Santander, whether it's Brandon Lowe, whether it's Luis Arias, they need another bat. I don't think they should gamble with DJ LeMahieu playing second base every single day, coming off the injuries that he had, and at his age, well over 34. So his best years are definitely behind him. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But their pitching rotation is loaded. I mean, Garrett Cole, Max Fried, Louis Hill, Clark Schmidt. I mean, those front 4 guys, that's really good. I think a lot of Yankee fans are excited for that. They're signing up all for it. And then Devin Williams in the bullpen. Still got Luke Weaver. Like, the Yankees got a loaded bullpen again, too. So, pitching, you're good to go. But then again, you got to be worried, too, about Garrett Cole coming off the injury that he had. He's been having some elbow issues. Same thing with Max Fried. He's only appeared in 30 games twice throughout his 9-year career. So something to keep an eye on there. But they need another bat in that lineup. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. What moves should they make? I don't know specifically, but I like the idea of Luis Arias, especially if they're out on Bregman. I think it makes perfect sense to complement those guys. Like I said before, you hit him leadoff, and you got guys like Judge that can drive him in. You got guys like Paul Goldschmidt that can drive him in, Cody Bellinger. That's good. But Paul Goldschmidt, I do want to talk about him because he signed that 1-year deal with the Yanks. Former MVP. But at the same time, coming over a year where he hit 245, 22 home runs, 65 RBIs. Not bad, but he's 37 years old. Former MVP, 7-time All-Star, 4-time Gold Glove winner. That's great defense that you're getting at first base, especially when you take away Anthony Rizzo, who, say what you want offensively, he was a great defender at first base. But let's take a look at 2023, just 2 years ago. I mean, this guy also is durable. Played in over 150 games for 4 consecutive years now. Is with the St. Louis Cardinals. I mean, really, every year since 2015, he's played in over 150 games. That's good. Obviously, 2020 only played in 58 out of the 60 games, but shortened season really can't count that. But just 2 years ago in 2022, won the MVP. So I think that's what the Yankees are hoping they can get one more great year out of Paul Goldschmidt. Had a 981 OPS, led the NL in slugging percentage with a 578, on base percentage of 404. That's great. Batting average of 317, 35 home runs, 115 RBIs. If the Yankees get that year out of Paul Goldschmidt, which is not that far removed, that's some good stuff right there, especially on the value that they got him on a 1-year deal. And in 2022, he had a pretty good year too. Took a dip in the batting average, 268, 363 on base percentage, but still an 810 OPS with 25 home runs, 80 RBIs. And this guy's durable. He's a guy who's durable. So let's see what he can do. Hitting in the lineup, same lineup as Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Jazz Chisholm. Maybe you get a little bit more out of him. Maybe he gets better pitches to hit. I think that's what the Yankees are hoping for with Paul Goldschmidt. I like the move. I don't love it, but I like it. His best years are definitely behind him, but let's see what they can squeeze out of him for 1 year. Cody Bellinger, let's hop to him. His best years are definitely behind him. I think it's a risk to trade for him, but they didn't really give up too much. So that's why you kind of like that move, but he's coming off a year with only 18 home runs, 266 batting average. He hasn't played in over 150 games since 2019. Still 130 is nice, but you want a guy that can play every day, especially if he's going to be your center fielder. And you don't want Aaron Judge playing a lick of center field at all. You want him playing in right field. You want his legs fresh. You want him hitting bombs like he is. But, yeah, 2024 wasn't that great for him. He only had a 751 OPS. 2023 was pretty good for him. 881 OPS, 307 batting average, 525 slugging, 26 home runs, 97 RBIs. If they get that year out of him, Yankees are going to have a great year. Yankees right now, I think, are the best team in the AL. But then again, the Baltimore Orioles are still going to be good. Boston Red Sox, I mean, they got a loaded pitching rotation right now. They bring in Garrett Crochet. They got Walker Buehler now as well in that rotation. Red Sox have a very good team. So say what you want about the Yankees being the best team on paper, but the Red Sox still have a good team on paper. Cleveland still has a good team on paper. Kansas City Royals, I mean, Bobby Witt's one of the best players in the league. And same thing with the Baltimore Orioles. They got Gunnar Henderson too. So, and the Orioles just, I feel like the past few years, they got so many guys, so many prospects, so many young guys that are making an impact. So keep a lookout for the AL East with the Yankees. I don't think it's a lock, but they got a very good shot if they get a great year out of Paul Goldschmidt and Cody Bellinger. But that's if. That's a big if. Then again, the pitching rotation is loaded. They get healthy seasons out of Garrett Cole and Max Fried. They're going to win a lot of games. They're going to win a lot of games. All right. But yeah, I mean, Brandon Lowe on the table. I think Luis Arias is the move they got to make. But still a lot of offseason left. Let's see what the Yankees do. All right, let's hop into some football. Football sucks in New York. Before we get into the Giants blowing their first overall pick, moving down to number 4 with the win over the Colts. Looks like the Jets are starting that head coach and interview process. Whoa. My camera got unplugged. But it looks like they're starting that interview process. Now that you guys can still hear me, hopefully. But they're starting that interview process Looks like they're bringing in Ron Rivera to interview, bringing in Rex Ryan potentially to interview for the job, which is a little weird to me because they don't have the GM. Feel like you got to get a GM before you get a head coach. Then again, Woody Johnson, Brick Johnson, whoever's running this team is running this team. And both of them, I mean, I hate calling a kid an idiot, but if he's really running the team, I don't blame the kid. I blame his dad. That's the idiot. But yeah, Jets backwards. Garrett Wilson, trade rumors are heating up. You know, one of my friends, his cousin's very close with Garrett Wilson. He said it in like week 2. Garrett Wilson does not like Aaron Rodgers. Garrett Wilson is not having fun with the Jets. I mean, this guy's had 7 different quarterbacks. He's had 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons in his first 3 years. He's talented. Now, if I have to pick Garrett Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, I'm picking Garrett Wilson. But the problem is, the owner's probably going to pick Aaron Rodgers, which means bye-bye Garrett Wilson, which sucks. I wish they could both be men, both be professionals, and let bygones be bygones and stick it out one more year. Because I've said it before. I've said it in articles on Fansided. I want Aaron Rodgers back. But if it's at the expense of Garrett Wilson, I don't want Aaron Rodgers. I don't. And we're not trading for J.J. McCarthy. Justin Fields, I think that's on the table. I would love that potential duo of the Ohio State crew, Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson. But at the end of the day, I have a good feeling that Aaron Rodgers will be back as the quarterback for a third year with the Jets. But you know what? If we got Devontae Adams as our number 1 receiver, maybe acquire another one in the offseason, whether it's in the draft. You know, with that 4th overall pick, the 6th overall pick is which we have right now. If we lose one more game, it looks like we're locked into 6. Somehow we could sneak up to 2. If the Browns, if the Giants, and the Titans lose, somehow we'd sneak up to number 2. I don't see that happening. Then again, they're all playing a lot of backups in the final week of the season, so it's definitely on the table. But Jets aren't beating the Dolphins. I don't think they're going to beat the Dolphins, especially after getting blown out like they did. Rodgers gets benched, throws 2 picks, blaming all his other players. I mean, it's very hard to defend Aaron Rodgers. Don't get me wrong. It is very hard to defend him. But at the same time, what's our best option? Who's gonna take over? It's a $60 million cap hit if we keep him. $49 million dead cap hit if we cut him. $11 million difference there. I don't know. Jets got a tough decision. But let's talk about the head coaching. I want Brian Flores, or I want Mike Vrabel. I'd go Brian Flores, Mike Vrabel, then Rex Ryan. Ron Rivera, I don't want anything to do with him. I think his best days are behind him. You know, he's a cancer survivor. He was a great head coach. Had a lot of accomplishments in this league for sure. But at the same time, I think his best days are behind him. I don't want anything to do with Ron Rivera, especially after his last stint in Washington. But Brian Flores, sign me up for it. Mike Vrabel, sign me up for it. Rex Ryan, okay, I'll sign up for it. Sure, why not? But I don't know. And the only reason I would sign up for Rex is because Rex, I don't think likes Aaron Rodgers. I think Rex would say, get rid of Aaron Rodgers. I want to keep Garrett Wilson, and let's still try to win. Because Rex isn't going to tank. I'm sick of losing. I'm sick of rebuilding. I'm sick of having 4 or 7 win seasons. I'm sick of it. I just want to win. I don't even care if we win a Super Bowl at this point. I just want to go 10-7, or even 9-8. I just want to win in season for once. But then again, with this owner, it's tough, man. We got the longest playoff drought in pro sports, second longest drought in division wins. It's tough. It really is tough being a Jet fan. But, I mean, what do you got to lose with Aaron Rodgers coming back? You got Garrett Wilson you can lose, which would suck. But if you're going to lose Garrett Wilson no matter what, I think you got to run it back with Rodgers and Devontae and Breece Hall. Build a little bit of the offensive lineup a little bit, add some depth to it because I think it's got some talent. Elijah Vera Tucker will be back. I like Joe Tippmann. Olu will be back, hopefully. He's been hurt. Went down just 2 weeks ago against the Rams. But the Jets got to figure something out. And I don't like the idea of going after a head coach before you get a GM. I think it's just backwards. But then again, Woody Johnson's our owner. I mean, this guy, I don't care about your political views. I don't think anyone should. We're talking sports. But this guy left New York, left his team with his little bro who hired Adam Gase just to go be a part of the Trump administration. I mean, this guy is a wacky guy. He's a wacky guy. So, let's get into the Giants because I don't even want to talk about the Jets, to be honest. I hate the Jets now. I love them, but I hate them. It's a love-hate relationship. And that's another thing. Anybody who says they're not going to be a Jet fan, they want to retire as a Jet fan, week 1 next year, you're going to be rocking that Jets jersey saying Jets, 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 Jets. Same thing with the Giants. You can be mad all you want. And it does suck. Happened just a few years ago with my team. We thought we were going to get Trevor, tank for Trevor. We win that meaningless football game against the Rams late in the season. And then we get stuck with a number 2 overall pick with Zach Wilson. And we all know how that turned out. And no, Zach Wilson will never, ever, ever turn into Sam Darnold. I'm sick of hearing that. Sam Darnold was talented. Sam Darnold's best wide receiver was Robbie Anderson. Sam Darnold had Adam Gase as his head coach in year 2. I mean, I hate bringing this up, RIP, but his quarterback's coach in year 1 got hit by a car. Like, Sam Darnold dealt with a lot of crap. I'm not surprised under Kevin O'Connell with the loaded offense with the Minnesota Vikings that Sam Darnold has that he's performing. He's not having just a Geno Smith turnaround. Sam Darnold is playing like the 3rd overall pick. He's playing like a franchise QB. And he's only 27 years old. He's younger than Joe Burrow. I don't think J.J. McCarthy's coming to the Jets either. I don't think they're going to trade J.J. McCarthy. I think they're going to re-sign Sam Darnold. And I think they're going to roll with Sam Darnold and sit J.J. McCarthy a few years. If it keeps working out with Sam Darnold, then you can trade J.J. McCarthy. But I mean, we've seen it with the Packers. Draft Aaron Rodgers, let Jordan Love sit for 3-4 years. He slides in. Even 2 decades ago, Brett Favre. Let him start for a few years. You drafted Aaron Rodgers in the 1st round, and then Rodgers gets promoted to starting quarterback. I mean, you look at some of the best starting quarterbacks around the league, some of the best of all time. I mean, Tom Brady sat. Pat Mahomes sat. Rodgers sat. Jordan Love sat. Even Jalen Hurts sat for a little. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in football, but he sat. Just want to put that out there. But the Jets, they need to get an athletic QB. If Jalen Miller's on the board, I would love to take him. I would love Jalen Miller on this Jets team. You need an athlete at quarterback. Just look at Jaden Daniels. Look at Pat Mahomes. Look at Josh Allen. Look at Lamar Jackson. Look at Joe Burrow. I mean, say what you want about Trevor Lawrence, but he's an athlete as well, and he put up good numbers last year and the year before that. Justin Herbert's an athlete. You need an athlete in today's NFL as a QB. And it sucks that the Giants won't be able to get the top QB, a Shadeur Sanders, who I think would make absolute sense with the Giants. And the Giants could still trade up. They could definitely still trade up and draft their guy. But let's say they don't. Jalen Milroe would likely be available. Cam Ward and Shadeur Sanders probably won't, but Jalen Milroe will still be available. And if they steal Jalen Milroe from my Jets, then I will hate the Giants. I don't hate the Giants. I actually like the Giants. I root for them. I like Tommy DeVito. I liked Saquon Barkley last year. I like Tyrone Tracy this year. I love Dexter Lawrence. I like Bobby Okereke. I like Aziz Olajari. I always root for Kayvon Thibodeau. It's not like the Yankees where I hate the Yankees and I love the Mets. I like the Giants. I love the Jets. I think a lot of Jet fans feel that way too. There's nothing to hate about the Giants, except the fact that they had Eli Manning. I do hate that. Tip the cap off to him. Hopefully a future Hall of Famer. But Giants, man, it sucks that you lost that 1st overall pick, but don't get me wrong. Could be a blessing in disguise. Because I think Jalen Milroe has the highest ceiling out of all the quarterbacks in this upcoming draft. Because Cam Ward, he has great protection. Shadeur Sanders, great protection. So does Jalen Milroe, don't get me wrong, but Jalen Milroe can move like they can't. He's the best athletic quarterback, I think, in the last, besides Jaden Daniels, last 3 years, I want to say. Is that a hot take? I don't know. But that's how I feel about it. But the Giants are in a good spot, man. Malik Neighbors, I mean, he's going to be a stud. He's going to be a stud. Tyrone Tracy, you got to like what he's doing. First, I mean, 1,000-yard season in his first year. That's great. I mean, you got a good lineman coming back next year with Andrew Thomas. Like, you look at the Giants roster, you just get a quarterback. It seems like they're going to get a veteran quarterback too. But you get a quarterback. You got a really good left tackle. You got a 1,000-yard rusher. You got one of the best wide receivers in football, Malik Neighbors. Build the offensive line. It's every year we say this, but you get some other depth at that offensive line spots. Giants could have a very good offense, depending on who they get with quarterback. I don't think whoever they draft should necessarily start, especially if they get a guy like Jalen Milroe. And that leads me to my next point. Who should draft the quarterback? Should it be Joe Schoen? Should Brian Daboll come back? I think absolutely. I mean, Joe Schoen has been the guy scouting these quarterbacks. You bring in a new GM and a new head coach, they might not want to draft a quarterback. They might not want to wait. They know they're going to have some time. Whereas Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen, they know next year is that if they come back, if they don't win next year, that's it. Or if they don't develop the QB that they have next year, that's it. Now, the Giants have a decent defense. So I think if there's anybody that needs to go, it's Shane Bowen, the defensive coordinator. Other than that, run it back. Run it back. Keep your fingers crossed that you trade up and you do get a Shadeur Sanders. But run it back with Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. I think it's a no-brainer. Brian Daboll is a great offensive coach. Brian Daboll, I'm not saying he built Josh Allen because Josh Allen's an MVP-worthy quarterback without him, but he played a vital role. He brought Daniel Jones to the playoffs in 2022. Daniel Jones sucks. Say what you want about Daniel Jones. He sucks. He's not good. He might be I say it all the time. He might be a starting quarterback on a very bad football team. That's what he is. That's what he is. He's going to be a backup now. That's what he is. He's not that good. So Giants are in an interesting spot. But I say you run it back with Brian Daboll. Who are your other options? Do you want Mike Vrabel? Yeah, you could say he's a better coach than Brian Daboll. Maybe. Brian Daboll gets fired. He's going to be one of the hottest head coaching candidates. No doubt about it. I think he has a high ceiling as a head coach. I think it'd be stupid to just let him go after 3 years. I mean, he's not Joe Judge. He's not Pat Shurmur. And he's not, why am I not thinking of his name? I'm blanking. Ben McAdoo. He's not any of those three guys. Give him some time. I'm sick of seeing guys just get fired. Rob Saleh, he needed to go. I don't think he needed to go necessarily at the point he did. I think he needed to go in the offseason last year. But I don't give guys a shot. Give them a little bit of a longer leash. But the Knicks won 8 straight. Let's talk about that. And let's wrap this thing up. Knicks 8 straight wins, baby. I believe we're a game back of the Boston Celtics for that number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. OG Anunoby, he has really turned this team around since he got traded here last year. 18 points from him tonight, 8 rebounds, 4-11 from 3. He had a block, had only a +1 today. But, overall, OG Anunoby averaging 16.3 points per game, his highest scoring average, I believe, so far. Yeah, I want to say that. 17.1 points in 2021 through 2022. Not his highest scoring, but probably the best basketball he's been playing. Josh Hart, engine of this team. I say it all the time. He's the most important player on this Knicks roster. I love Cat. I love Jalen Brunson. They're definitely the 2 best players on the Knicks roster, but Josh Hart, I think, is a key. He's the most important player. He goes down, we're screwed. Josh Hart, triple-double tonight. Again, multiple triple-doubles this year. 23 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists, 7 of 15 from the field, 4 from 8 from three-pointer. He had a +25 tonight. Granted, it was against the Wizards, but still, this year, going into tonight, averaging 14.2 points per game, shooting 39% from 3, shooting 58% from the field, averaging 8.4 rebounds, averaging 5.4 assists. Josh Hart has been the engine of this Knicks team. He's been the engine, the transmission. He doesn't have any breaks. He just goes balls to the wall. You got to love him. Karl-Anthony Towns, another great game. Cat with 32 points, 13 rebounds, another double-double for the Big Bodega, 13 of 19 from the field. Didn't make a single 3, but he was still a +21 tonight. Jalen Brunson, 18 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds. The assists keep coming for Jalen Brunson. Going into the night, he was averaging 25.5, 7.7 assists. I mean, he's shooting 41% from 3, shooting 49% from the field. I mean, this is exactly what we expected out of Jalen Brunson. Knicks, 8 straight wins. That's what I'll leave it on tonight. Let's keep it rolling. New York Knicks. They're the real deal. Finals contenders? Yes. All right, to wrap it up, Mets, option A, Alex Bregman. Option B, Pete Alonso. I'd love Anthony Santander or Jesse Winker as an addition with one of those two. Yankees, they're giving Jasson Dominguez that shot in left. Definitely. DJ LeMahieu, I guess they might roll the dice with him at second base, but I like the idea of trading for Arias from San Diego. You could pair him up with those sluggers. He'd complement them very well. Rotation, dominant, has some question marks with the injury concerns. Mets also, speaking of rotation, they need another pitcher. I'd say Jose Quintana. If you get Roki Sasaki, great. If you don't, go get me Jose Quintana on a 1-year deal. Jets, to wrap them up, Rex Ryan, baby. I guess they might actually hire him as their head coach. They're backwards as hell with the way they're doing it right now. But, I mean, Ron Rivera's getting interviewed. I'd like Brian Flores or Mike Vrabel as my first 2 options. My third option would definitely be Rex Ryan, though. Garrett Wilson, hopefully he stays. If not, it seems like if he's not staying, it means Aaron Rodgers is coming back. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back, I guess we got a shot with him. But I'd love for number 5, the guy who's had his 3rd consecutive 1,000-yard season with 7 different quarterbacks in his entire career. I'd love to keep him long-term. And then the G-men, I mean, it sucks. You lost that first overall pick, but you know what? It's not the end of the world. Let's be real. It's not the end of the world because even if you get a quarterback, you don't want him coming into a crappy situation. So if you don't get a quarterback, big whoop. Big whoop. Honestly, I think if it's Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll coming back, they need a quarterback. But if not, it's not the end of the world. You can get a veteran. You got a great left tackle. You got a 1,000-yard receiver. You got a 1,000-yard running back. I think they could win a few games next year. But then again, don't fire Daboll. Don't fire Schoen. Let them build. Let them build something. Knicks, they're the real deal, baby. All right, that's it for today. There we go. Adorable snowflake, exposed cap. Let's fucking go. Oh, curse there. I only curse when Aaron Rodgers does something. But you know what? Aaron Rodgers sucked this week, so I'll let that one slide. All right. That's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. We got over 150 watching, whether you're on X, YouTube, or Facebook. I really appreciate and love each and every one of you guys. If you're on X, maybe retweet this. We can get some more views on this pod. And then if you're on YouTube and you haven't hit the like button, you can hit the like button. You don't have to, but if you do, cool. But yeah, that's it for today. I'll see you guys probably at the end of this week. Hopefully some more Mets moves. Hopefully some more Yankees moves. And then let's see what the Jets do with the head coaching position once this season comes to an end. And let's see what the Giants do with Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen when this season comes to an end. And hopefully the Knicks stay on a roll. All right, that's it today.